The Battle Network universe is one based on advanced science, and yet makes no sense at all when looking at it from our real-life perspective. I mean, think about it. A universe where most people own a portable device which houses an advanced AI that can be used to connect to the internet and to other electronic devices. A device that allows us to make phone calls, check and send emails, and even get basic information about the world around us. That makes no sense at Okay, so maybe a PET is just an improved version of a smartphone, but still, our actual internet isn't similar to the Battle Network version of it at all, as it's not an alternate or parallel dimension where Siri and Cortana can take on a physical form and walk around. But that's not actually the topic of this video. No, I'm actually here to discuss another instance where the Battle Network series actually fails to line up with real-world science. But before I get into that, let me give you a bit of a background on why I'm a credible source of this information. TLDR, I studied chemistry in both high school and college, so I kinda have a background on what I'm talking about today. As such, I have an understanding of many chemistry related topics, and I'm able to see how video games can oftentimes use general science knowledge properly or improperly, as I'm about to discuss. Because if there's one thing that stuck with me when learning about chemistry, it's the one fact that so many games we play misrepresent. Water doesn't actually conduct electricity. Now, I know what you're thinking. You think that I'm wrong, or that I'm lying to you. We know that water conducts electricity. Why else would water be bad for electronic devices? Why else would hair dryers warn you against getting them wet? So let me rephrase that statement in a way that's a bit more factual. Pure water doesn't conduct electricity. I get it, we learned from a young age that water and electricity aren't friends. I mean, you've probably been using electric type Pokemon against water types for the past 30 years or so clearly water does conduct electricity, right? Well, it turns out that Game Freak has that one wrong. Kind of. Notice how I just emphasized that pure water doesn't conduct electricity? Well, that's because water that isn't pure can in fact conduct electricity. It's just not the water itself that's doing the conducting. Okay, this is getting a bit confusing. Let's learn a bit about water so I can explain this properly. This is a molecule of water. The red orb is an atom of oxygen, and the two white orbs are atoms of hydrogen. Water is always made up of one oxygen atom chemically bonded to two hydrogen atoms. This is why its chemical formula is H2O. Now, despite its simple appearance, water is actually one of the most complex and interesting compounds in the universe. The unique properties of water make it essential for the existence of life, which is why you need to stay hydrated. Like, right now. Go drink some water. To understand this hidden complexity of water, we need to have just a bit more basic knowledge about chemistry. For starters, how exactly do oxygen and hydrogen chemically bond to each other? The answer lies in the structure of the atom. In the center of the atom, we have the nucleus, which contains protons and neutrons. More importantly for today's lesson, however, are the electrons. These tiny little things surround the nucleus of the atom and are the particles that interact with other atoms to make chemical bonds. For the sake of preventing this video from becoming an hour-long explanation of how chemical bonds work, we'll skip ahead to covalent bonds, which are formed when atoms share their electrons with each other. In the case of water, oxygen shares two of its electrons, one with each individual hydrogen atom, and each hydrogen atom shares its sole electron with oxygen. However, oxygen and hydrogen don't exactly share their electrons equally. Oxygen atoms attract electrons more than hydrogen atoms do, so oxygen tends to pull the electrons that hydrogen is sharing with it closer to itself. This causes a bit of an imbalance since electrons, as their name implies, have an electrical charge. Specifically, electrons are said to have a negative charge. And so, when oxygen pulls these electrons closer to itself, the oxygen atom will have a slightly negative charge on itself within the water molecule. And since this charge needs to be balanced, each hydrogen atom in exchange has a slight positive charge. These partial charges are crucial to the water molecule, and this charge imbalance as well as the V shape of water make it a polar molecule. And if there's anything you already know about polar molecules such as water, it's that they can dissolve substances that are made up of charged particles known as ions. You know, like salt. Table salt, also known as sodium chloride or the Knackle in the Knackley Pokemon line, is an ionic compound made up of sodium and chloride ions. Since water is polar and has partial charges on itself, it's able to attract the charged ions in compounds such as salt, breaking the salt apart and letting the water dissolve it. So that was a slightly too long way of explaining how water is able to dissolve salt. What's that got to do with electricity though? Well, here's the thing. Electricity is conducted by charged particles when they are able to move around. And although water has partial charges on its two ends, that doesn't actually count as being a fully charged particle. Overall, the electric charge on a molecule of water is still 0. The sodium and chloride ions that get dissolved in water, however, are fully charged particles, and they are absolutely mobile when dissolved in water. So it's actually those ions moving around in the water that conducts electricity, not the water itself. So, I've now explained that pure water, without any charged particles dissolved in it, doesn't actually conduct electricity. That's great and all, but I still haven't explained what that has to do with the Battle Network games. Well, before we get into that, let's briefly talk about one more thing. What happens to water when it freezes? Quick and simple answer is, water turns into ice. But even this is interesting, first because water is so important to us that it's one of the few substances that gets a new name when it's frozen. But it's also interesting because of the water molecule's shape. This is where I could go into a whole explanation of why ice floats on water when solids are supposed to be more dense than their liquid forms, but I'll try to stay on topic here. Normally in liquids, molecules are close to each other, but are able to move past each other easily. But whenever a substance freezes, its particles become immobile and locked in place. This is a crucial bit of scientific information that we've been working towards for this entire video. Remember that it's mobile charged particles that allow electricity to be conducted. As a result, since ice doesn't contain any mobile particles in it, ice does not conduct electricity. Now, you may see exactly where I'm going with this and how this information ties in with the Battle Network games. Back in Battle Network 2, many different panel types were introduced, including grass panels, lava panels, poison panels, magnet panels, and of course, ice panels. These ice panels had two effects. First, whenever Mega Man moves onto an ice panel, he will slip off of that panel, continuing to move until Mega Man reaches a non-ice panel or the edge of his area. This is annoying for sure, but it's not what we're interested in at the moment. The second effect of ice panels is the one that leads to some scientific inaccuracy. Whenever an enemy is standing on an ice panel, elect-type attacks will deal double damage to them. This is not only true in Battle Network 2, but is also true in both Battle Networks 3 and 4 as well. But remember that I just pointed out that ice doesn't even conduct electricity. So if that's the case, then why would ice panels cause elect attacks to deal double damage? Obviously, the reasoning here is simple, it just doesn't take accurate scientific knowledge into consideration, which is perfectly fine. The Battle Network games have always had their four primary elements, including fire, aqua, elect, and wood. Since ice is really just solid water, ice attacks and navies in the Battle Network games have always been lumped in with the aqua element. Think navies such as Iceman, Freezeman, and Coldman. They're all ice-based navies, but are considered to be aqua navies. However, things actually went a bit deeper later on in the series, specifically in Battle Network 5. This game introduced sea panels as a new panel type, and they once again had a few properties, though of course the important one was that enemies standing on or hiding inside sea panels would take double damage from elect attacks. And this time, this property is 100% scientifically accurate. The name sea panels as opposed to just aqua panels to me implies that these panels are made up of seawater rather than pure water. Seawater could be fresh water, but we can make the assumption that sea panels are actually made up of salt water, similar to Earth's oceans. Since those panels would consist of salt water, they would absolutely conduct electricity, giving us a fair reason for elect damage to be doubled on those panels. But what about ice panels? With the addition of sea panels to Battle Network 5, you may think that ice panels became redundant or unnecessary. Why have ice panels that double elect damage when the new sea panels already do this? Well, fortunately Capcom actually made a change to ice panels in this game, namely the fact that ice panels no longer cause elect attacks to deal double damage. This sounds bad at first, and sure, it sucks that ice panels have lost some of their usefulness in this game, but ultimately, this change makes ice panels more accurate to real-life science, and is a change that I actually appreciate. Lastly, in Balnark 6, ice panels were once again brought back, while Balnark 5's sea panels were a one-time mechanic, and yet Capcom didn't return the elect damage modifier to ice panels in this game, opting to give ice panels their freeze effect with aqua chips instead. Rather, elect chips were given a double damage buff to enemies trapped in bubbles from the Bubble Star chips. As such, Balnark 6 once again has scientifically accurate ice panels, as long as we don't look too hard at the whole instant freezing when hit by water thing. I'm not going to be discussing that one anytime soon. I hope that you enjoyed this quick chemistry lesson on the science behind ice and sea panels in the Balnark games. I was really looking forward to making this video, as it gave me an opportunity to combine my knowledge and love of chemistry with my YouTube videos. If you did enjoy it, please give it a like, leave a comment below to help boost this video in the algorithm, and consider subscribing to my channel for some more Mega Man Balnark content. In addition to these short essay style videos, I also have two series that you can find on my channel. In Folder Decoder, I go over chip folders that I've used throughout the Balnark series, while in my Network Evolution series, I go over the history of individual chips throughout the games. Both will be linked in the description below, so please feel free to browse through those videos as well. If you love the Balnark games as much as I do, there's a lot for you to check out here. And as always, thanks for watching.